there is something so cool about nobody has done what you want to do. Nobody knows how to do it, so like figure it out.
Yeah.
It's like super exciting to me.
Welcome to another episode of Contrabass Conversations, your show covering life on the low end of the spectrum. I'm your host, Jason Heath. So glad to have you here today. And check out our archive of hundreds of episodes going back over a decade at contrabassconversations.com. You hear from Ron Carter, you hear from Gary Carr, Paul Ellison, you name them. We probably talk with them, and if not, we're probably talking with them soon. And I'd love to hear from you. Send me a message, feedback at contrabassconversations.com. Let me know a little bit about yourself, maybe a suggestion for a guest. That would be great. And you're going to love today's episode featuring Nick Villalobos. Nick is a co-founder of the group Simply 3, and this group has really taken off. They've gotten millions of YouTube views, praise from publications like Rolling Stone, the Huffington Post, and RyanSeacrest.com. And Nick's kind of become a classical crossover rock star. We talk about this. And he's spending his time with the group recording new covers, shooting videos, and now branching into original compositions. Their first all-original album is in the works right now. Nick's also an Eastman strings artist. He tours the world helping to educate young bass players. And you can check out the video of their first original that they've released, Maverick. It's in the show notes, and you can see Nick playing an Eastman bass. And I've been a fan of these basses for years. I've used them quite a bit over the years. We talk about this and much more, like what makes a good hook, the benefits of competition, the rise in popularity of this classical crossover genre, and much more. You'll hear a few excerpts of some of their covers and a little bit of Maverick throughout the episode, and you can check out all of these videos. There are a ton of them. They're very engaging at simply3music.com. I'd also like to take a moment and thank our sponsor, D'Addario Strings. And Las Vegas bassist Jeff Newman uses Helicore hybrid strings. He wrote in and says, I use Helicore hybrid strings on my jazz bass. I've used them for years and love them. I think they sound great with the bow too. And you can enter our D'Addario giveaway at contrabassconversations.com/strings. We're giving away sets of Helicore strings, orchestra, pizzicato, and hybrid strings. All of these strings are designed, engineered, and crafted at their New York facilities. And thank you so much for sponsoring the podcast, D'Addario. I'd also like to let you know about Rosin Saver, which is a new storage device, a revolutionary storage device that keeps bass rosin feeling as fresh as the day it was made. I've been using it for the last several months. It works great. My Pops feels fantastic here in April. I think I put it into Rosin Saver in December. It's working wonderfully. The typical problem of rosin getting dry, powdery, kind of useless, that doesn't happen with Rosin Saver. It's being used by members of top orchestras, including New York Philharmonic, Metropolitan Opera Orchestra, Los Angeles Philharmonic, the Cleveland Orchestra. The list goes on and on. And I've got a special code for you. If you go to rosinsaver.com and use the promo code HEATH, that's HEATH, my name, you'll get 10% off any and all order. So thank you, Rosin Saver, for sponsoring the podcast. And I know you're going to enjoy this conversation with Nick Villalobos. Zach have known each other since
high school.
Since high school. Okay. Did you jam together in high school or what?
Yeah, I mean, we were very much focused on like classical stuff at that point. You know, we kind of fooled around with doing other things, but we really didn't like know what we were doing or like felt really comfortable doing that type of thing. But we were in different youth orchestras together. We were in the Phoenix Youth Symphony together. We did like regionals and All-State and all that stuff. So we were always like around each other, like playing music in orchestras. And we became really good friends. And after high school, we both went to different colleges. He actually went to the Cleveland Institute of Music for a year, and then I went to ASU, and then we both went on missions for our church. And then when we came back, we said, he actually transferred to ASU. And then we kind of just we were talking one day, and we were like, yeah, I think it'd be fun if we just tried to play other kinds of music, in our off time. And I think we had the idea that we could play at weddings and stuff because, people seem to like this type of thing, and we would like to make some money while we're in school.
Sure. Yeah, right.
Playing, rather than getting a job anywhere else. So it kind of just started like that. And we actually got a Beatles piano reduction book from the ASU library, and it was just me and him in my apartment. We were trying to read it and play it as a duet.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah,
wow.
and it was not good.
Okay.
It was really, really bad actually, and we were like, man, we should probably get another voice. So we talked to some violinists at ASU, and started just kind of jumped in, just started arranging. At that point, we didn't have very much music theory experience and arranging experience, none.
Okay.
But it was just kind of fun. It just kind of started as a fun thing.
So Simply 2 became Simply 3.
Simply 2 became Simply 3, yeah. And then we did a few wedding gigs, and people were like, man, you guys are really good. And we like your music. Do you have a CD? We're like, no. There's never the plan,
Yeah.
So it kind of just sparked from there, and continued to write music and get better and at that type of stuff, and started doing music videos, and it kind of just went on from there. Just became this thing that we wanted to do.
Oh, fascinating. So just real organic, it sounds like.
Yeah. It wasn't a plan, but when we started getting into it, we started to see other groups, Lindsey Sterling. She's from here. We actually know her. She was kind of taking off at that point, and the piano guys, and we saw 2 cellos. We're like, I guess there's a thing here, we might as well, if we like doing it, we might as well keep doing it.
Yeah.
And I think we each realized that this is something that we want to do. We kind of want to be our own boss. We kind of want to play what we want to play and the way that we want to play it. So it really worked out.
So what does life for you guys look like now? I mean, are you touring a lot? Are you recording? What maybe the next couple of months coming up? What's your life look like? I'm sure people will be fascinated.
Yeah, it's constant. It's constant work. Definitely, it's both of those things. We personally like to be on the road and touring a lot because we're all performers and we love to perform. But right now we're in the studio every day. We're recording stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. We're recording stuff. We're actually recording a lot more of our originals. I saw that you posted about Maverick. That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
So that was one of our first. That is our first original that we released. We're basically known as a cover band at this point, but we've always really wanted to do original music. I think we were kind of scared at the first point because we were we don't even know what we're doing covering stuff. So let's not get into original music. Let's try and figure out what we're doing. So we're actually recording an original album. So we're doing that, and then we're also recording some more covers because that's what we're known for, and people seem to like it. So we're going to continue to do that. But we're in when we're not performing, we're in the studio recording, and if we're not in the studio recording, we're making a music video.
Okay.
Which is what we're going to try and do tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's just it's constant work. And if we're not making a recording or doing a music video, we're rehearsing for an upcoming show, adding new material to our show, trying to figure out how to program our show in a way that's interesting and keeps the audience engaged. Because, our shows are a little different than a classical concert. It's more of a rock type of show. We want transitions in between songs. There's parts where we have to talk and, tell an intriguing story about what this piece is about, since there's no lyrics, all that type of stuff. It's just constantly trying to improve that stuff.
I'm going to go play a concert tomorrow night, and the average age of the audience 70 might be the average age, maybe 65. What do the crowds look like for your shows? Who comes out for the shows?
It's actually a large gamut of ages because a lot of the times we're on like a performing arts subscription series, like we're on a series. So you get those people that just buy season tickets to whatever's coming. They come. They have tickets to like everything. So sometimes we get like a lot of a pretty older crowd, like, you know, the 70 plus people, and they seem to really enjoy it, to be honest. You know, sometimes they say it's like a little loud, but I feel like all, you know, because we're like plugged in and stuff like that, and we really like to, like, you know, you give it to them. But yeah, it's a large gamut of ages. You know, we definitely get the older crowd, and then we definitely get people that are in school, like students that are in their orchestras at their schools, and get some college age kids as well. So it's really nice. Get to meet a lot of different type of people.
Okay. Wow. I'm sure you've got a team helping you with like you guys aren't recording the audio and doing the videos and booking the touring and everything, right? I'm assuming at this point where you're at.
Yeah, we're doing a lot of the recording.
You are? Okay.
Yeah, we have our own little studio here that we record, and that's been a whole, like, we could talk about that for like hours. All this, I'm sure, as you know, like recording is in and of itself is an art form for sure. Yeah. We're definitely not the best at it, but you know, we're learning, and I think we found like a sound that we really like here. Yeah. But we do our own recording. We have a booking agent. We work with ICM. They're a really great booking company. And then we also recently got a new manager as well.
Okay.
And we also have a business manager too, which is really nice to kind of take care of the whole financial side of things. So we're slowly like building a team to where we'll only have to like work on the music, which is it's really close at this point, and it's really, really nice because for years we were doing everything, and there were some months, honestly, where I didn't feel like, let alone a bass player, like a musician.
I'll bet.
Because it was just like all this logistical work, and it's all good stuff. Like it's all stuff that I think musicians need to know how to do to like be successful. Maybe not know how to do well, but they have to like understand what has to happen to like make those things, to like make a concert happen. There's all these things that go into making a concert happen, and I think musicians need to like understand that. At least understand it, not know how to do it per se, but like understand the work that goes into it, because it's a lot of work.
I'm sure. And I think a lot of people wouldn't have a clue where to start, right? That's like not still, I mean, music schools are slowly kind of adding something, but like, and it's probably a long answer, but is there like, I want to book a concert. What do I do? Like you would be a guy to ask. Like, what would I do? Just like, what are some of the steps? Like, I wouldn't even know where to start.
Well, obviously, at that point, you have a concert to give, so that's great. Like, you have a product, that's amazing, and it's at a level to where you feel comfortable to show a bunch of people. You got to find a place to book. You got to find a place to book it, and the people that know how to do that are booking agents. I mean, or if you have a connection to somebody that owns a venue or knows somebody that owns a venue, you got to talk to those people, and then once you negotiate whatever the deal is for you to play at that venue, and it could be great and it could be horrible, you know, whatever spot you're at in your career will determine that. Once you get a place, you got to get people in the seats, and that is the hard part. Like, that's still something we're trying to figure out. The marketing of a concert is something that I don't fully understand. And I don't know if anybody really fully understands it, but there are different strategies. We've definitely used Facebook to our advantage, the Facebook ads, and there's like a specific way to do that. It's not just putting money into an ad, because that won't really get people in the seats. You gotta target your audience. So like target people that like Lindsey Sterling, people that like piano guys, people that like two cellos, or somebody that is like what you're doing. You need to target those people's fans. Send them an ad, put money into it. In the area where you're, you know, giving the concert. Another thing is it's really hard to get your name out there. Like, you know, if you have a video, you got to send that video to like all of your friends and everybody that you know, and like ask them to share it. Like, we've done that. I've gone through all of my friends on Facebook and sent them a video, be like, hey man, we'd really appreciate it if you watch this video and share it. You know, it's that direct marketing that is super important, especially in the forefront of getting something out there. But yeah, like I personally wouldn't know how to like really get butts in the seats, but working with people that do, there's all different kinds of strategies about marketing a concert that kind of go into this, but really targeting the people who are like interested in that type of stuff is like the first step, I would say.
Yeah, I'm sure. And like getting a venue, like you were talking about, I don't know if you know Peter Seymour, Project. Yeah. So Peter,
He's
great
the man.
Yeah, great guy. And he and I've known him for years. He was talking about when they were just getting that group going. He came up with a list. I think it was 2,000 or 3,000. I can't remember. Some staggering number of potential venues. Right? He just like sat down, made a spreadsheet, and contacted every single one. And I think he got 6 responses. So whatever percentage that is, but hey, that's 6. And then it just kind of went from there. Was that like, was there something local around Phoenix that like what was that first venue? Like, do you remember how that worked?
Yeah. One of our first concerts was at a church that Zach and I had played at just for different services. The music director there found out who we were somehow, and we played in different services with him for years. Like we'd play their Christmas Eve service, and then once we got this going, we just went up to him. We're like, "Hey, we want to give a concert. Can we like give it in your church?"
Okay.
And he was like, "Yeah." We sold tickets to. I'm not sure if we sold tickets or not. We sold merchandise for sure, and but yeah, we just wanted to play. We just wanted to play for people, and we wanted people to hear our music, and we wanted to sell our product. So, just started working with people that you know.
Yeah, sure.
And now we have connections with other performing arts centers here. Like we just gave a concert at the Mesa Performing Arts Center.
Okay.
For like 1,500 people. And it's because we knew the people that book, they saw us, they liked it. We told them what we wanted to do, and they made it happen. I mean, telling people what you want, like just being like blunt about it like works. Like, I want to give a show here. Okay, well, let's make it happen.
It's so cool. I mean, as someone who's going to listen to this podcast, you're living kind of like what people think of as like the rock star lifestyle, kind of playing.
Yeah, it's funny.
I mean, it's such a wild, and like there wasn't a job description out there in the international musician like wanted, basically. But,
yeah, there's nothing.
Right. Yeah. In your mind, like when you were a student with Catalan, like, I mean, did you have any vision of this, or like what were you thinking you were going to do post college when you were studying?
Well, we started this like my sophomore year at ASU.
Oh, okay.
Like somewhere around there. But like up until that point, I thought I was going to be like, in an orchestra, mm-hmm. or like in a chamber or classical chamber group. Mm-hmm. I really love playing solos. I still love playing solos. Yeah. I really wanted to try and do like the soloist route. And I think, that's what Catalan kind of wanted me to do too, do these competitions, do this competition, you'll win some, you'll lose some, but it'll work. Like it'll work if you work hard and get in front of people, like it'll work. Like you'll have a career doing that. Like I said, I love playing solos, and I especially like love doing competitions. Like really? I grew up as an athlete. Well, athlete,
Yeah, sure.
Like a pro athlete or anything by any means. But like I love basketball. I did track. I did wrestling. I love the feeling of like competition. like knowing that you have to go out and perform and someone's going to try and stop you from doing well. Not that that happens in like bass competitions. No one's like guarding you while you're playing and like trying to stop you. But it's that same type of feeling, like I have to do this right now. Like that's like exciting to me. And obviously like the prize money and all that stuff that comes with it is great too. But I loved doing competitions. I feel like I still do. Like if I were to do one, I would still really like it. But after this started going on, it became kind of like a competition to me. It's like, how well can I do this thing? And like, every time we get on stage, we can view it as a competition. Like these people are hearing this right now and they need to play well right now. Because if I play well, the prize is maybe they'll buy some merchandise and they're like a fan. Like that's awesome. That's super cool. And, there's obviously probably, some unspoken competition between groups that are like us, like what are the two cellos doing? Oh, we got to do something, all that type of stuff. Project Trio, what are they doing? Oh, they're playing over in Germany. We got to go to Germany and do that stuff. There's like friendly, unspoken competition. At least there is with me, because like I kind of like thrive on that. It's nothing hateful or anything. I love all of these groups because they all do something that's like so unique and so cool. They all have their own sound. But yeah, studying with Catalan, I definitely, when I first went in, I never thought I'd be doing something like this.
Sure.
Like I definitely thought I'd be like in the classical world a little more.
I was just thinking, like, is there, when we think about orchestras, we have an easy word to describe that. Orchestra. If we think of what groups we want to name, like you guys, Time for Three, Project Trio, piano, do you have a label for like what would you call these groups? Yeah,
I think it's called classical crossover.
Okay.
Like I think that's a good like general genre for all of us.
Okay.
But it is I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't know how to define classical crossover because it's such a broad statement.
Yeah.
But like basically how we explain it is that we were all trained classically, but we don't play classical music.
Sure.
Like we've crossed over into like this pop world.
Right.
But you can cross over into anything.
Right.
But as long as you were classically trained and then you cross over to whatever genre, you're like a classical crossover musician / group, I guess I would say. A classical crossover group.
Got it.
Yeah, it's hard. There isn't like on iTunes when we like upload something, there isn't like a classical crossover genre. So it's like, well, what is this song? Well, it's a pop song, but it's not because there's no lyrics and it's weird. It's weird. Hopefully like that becomes like a genre, like a classical crossover genre.
Well, and there's starting to be enough groups. I mean, it's got to be good for everybody, even though it is in a way competition, but not really, because it's still so few groups. Not. And how cool to see like, hey, what's Project Trio doing? What's Time for Three doing? What are the piano guys doing? And just, I love how cool just the whole video element of what you guys do. That must be just so fun and so fascinating to get into. Like what was the first video that really like caught fire? I mean, was it the first thing you put out or was it a few down the road or?
Yeah, it wasn't the first one we put out for sure. I think everybody thinks that like if you put like a ton of work into a music video, like it's just gonna go gangbusters, but that's very rare. I would say it's a pretty rare thing. The first video that did really, really well. Well, the first video that ever got on the Huffington Post kind of like opened the door to like a new sector of people that we had never really been able to contact up until that point. And that was one of our Christmas videos. We did a rendition of the Christmas song, one of my favorites. But we were figuring out like, man, again, how are we going to get this in front of a large group of people? Like we just want more views. We want more people to see it. And so we looked at the piano guys and two cellos, Lindsey Sterling, and they had all these articles like written about their videos. And we were like, how do they do this? Like, how did somebody just write an article about you? And I think that happens, that people just find videos and they decide to write articles. But we kind of took it into our own hands and we emailed the people that wrote those articles.
Oh, okay.
And we said like, hey, I saw that you wrote this article. It was great.
Yeah.
Check this out.
Here's a video. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
So I did that with a guy who wrote an article about the piano guys in the Huffington Post. I said, hey, love this. Maybe you'll love this too. Like, essentially, I was a little more than that.
Right.
And next thing I know, he emailed me a link to the article that he wrote in the Huffington Post. And he said, Simply Three's The Christmas Song is the only Christmas song you'll have to listen to this season.
Whoa.
Like, something like that. I was like, okay, like that's like a little crazy, but thanks.
Man. Talk about you're just like going about your day. I think I'll contact this guy in the Huff Post and see. And then all of a sudden it's like, that must have been a fun email to open.
Yeah, we were like, holy cow, this like worked. That was crazy. But it wasn't because he sought us out. It was, again, like I basically told him what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like, I want you to write an article about us. Like, and then he did, which was pretty crazy. And that opened the door to, so whenever we got a new video, I sent it to him. I was like, hey, do you like this? And then he would write it or he would get somebody on his team to write it. And we got I think we had 4 things on Huffington Post, 4 of our videos. And that was great. Like, that was awesome. Like, that's a huge platform. And definitely got it in front of a lot of people. And then another video that kind of went a little crazy randomly was our cover of Demons by Imagine Dragons. It got posted on a pretty famous website in Vietnam.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Interesting. And it just it had hundreds of thousands of views in a week, and we were like, how did this happen? And it was because it got posted on something in Vietnam, something random like that. And then that happened again with Rolling in the Deep, but in Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, yeah. And now we kind of have our people that watch it, and then they share it. And obviously we want to get it higher and higher and higher.
Yeah.
But I would say those were the things, those were the landmarks where it's this happened, and there was definitely good stuff that happened because of that.
I love, it's always fascinating to me because I've never really done group arranging or group composing, right?
Yeah.
And I just loved it. Maybe how does that work? And I'm sure it's different for every group, but how does maybe can you talk, just even maybe start with the arranging? How does somebody tend to come up with an idea, or is all 3 of you? Do you come up with ideas together? Or do you just jam? How does that work?
Yeah, it's kind of it just depends on the song, but I would say usually somebody calls somebody else and it's hey, did you hear this song on the radio? I really think it would work for us. It'd be really cool. I kind of have a vision or an idea, and then that person will usually just write it out. We write it out on we use Sibelius. So all right, cool. I want to hear what you're hearing. So write it out. So then we'll write it out. All the ideas that we have, maybe it's a complete arrangement, maybe it's not. But after that, we then start the other guys will put in their ideas. Oh, what about this? What if we extended this part? Or what if we did the bridge and it's extended? Or what if you pass the melody to me here or you, all these different things. So by the end, it's definitely a group effort for sure. There's definitely a lot of changes that happen by the end. But I would say more often than not, somebody comes to the other guys with an idea. It's and the idea could just be, I want to cover Ed Sheeran's Photograph. Sweet. And that could just be the idea, just the initial, get this thing going. But the Maverick video that you shared, that was pretty much an organic, jam session. We were backstage waiting to do a sound check. And we were waiting forever. I'm sure you know how that is, waiting for the stage to get ready. And we weren't in charge. It wasn't our show. We were doing somebody else's stuff. So we were just waiting. We were kind of frustrated, to be honest. We were we're sitting here forever. This is so annoying. So Zach just started playing that Pitts line that you hear in the beginning of Maverick, that B minor. Da, 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 da. And I was that's cool. And then I just started playing the melody that you hear. Literally it did not change. And he was that's really cool. Let's keep it going. Let's go, to G. And it kind of just started like that. And then Glenn did the harmony. The beginning of that song is honestly an organic jam session. It's just, we just came up with that. And then everything after we thought about, it's okay, here's the chord structure. But that was very much like a jam session type thing.
And you've been writing stuff for this first album of originals. Are you kind of in the middle of that? Yeah. Similar process for those, or are you writing things out, or how's that looking?
We write most of them out.
Okay.
But I would say mostly for the originals, it's like somebody comes up with like a hook on their instrument. Mm-hmm. Like for sure. It's very like, we want our originals to be very, very catchy, like pop music is, you know, with these hooks that you just like cannot get out of your head. We like love that. Like whenever there's a hook on the radio, I know some people are like annoyed by it, and I'm annoyed by it too, but I'm like fascinated by it more than anything. It's like, how is this so catchy? Like, what about this hook is like so like unforgettable? Like it's stuck in my head and I can't get it out. So like we're trying to figure that out. Like, what is a great hook? Mm-hmm. And you know, so all of our songs, we try to have like a great like hook or like rhythmic type of thing, or maybe it's a melodic hook. So usually somebody comes up with that. Sometimes it's on their instrument, or sometimes they're like, hey, I wrote this thing out, but I think it would sound better on the bass.
Yeah.
So we start with like the hook, or maybe it's a melody, like I said, a melodic hook, and then we'll just kind of get together and we'll say, you know, how can we make this into a song? Like, where do you see this going? Yeah. Again, by the end, it's very much like everybody's contributed. And I would say, you know, some songs, maybe I've contributed more than the other two because maybe I just had a bigger idea for this song. But like by the end, we definitely all have, there's definitely Nick, Zach, and Glenn in like everything that we perform.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
It is cool. I do like that about the group. Cause like, I remember there's like some bands where I'm like, man, that band is like awesome. But then you find out it's just like the lead singer doing everything. And then it's just the other guys are just like there.
Right. Hired hands. Yeah.
Exactly. It's like, oh, I thought this was like a group thing. Like I thought, you know, and it's fine. I personally like it when it is like a group effort. I feel like we get best stuff when Zach and Glenn have, you know, contributed.
Yeah.
I love that.
I've thought so much about the hook thing that you're describing, and like what makes a good hook, and like if there was a magic answer, then everybody would just apply it, right? It's
so crazy.
But yeah, there are like rhythmic hooks, there are melodic hooks.
Like whenever I hear like a good bass hook, I always get like a little mad at first because I'm like, why didn't I think of that? Like that is such a simple thing, and it's so catchy and it's so good.
No, that's the exact same thing that I think about a lot too. Like, yeah, like how the heck is it for you? Is it just like listening to a ton of different things and like just sort of like getting immersed in just like all these different styles of hooks and you know?
Yeah.
Okay.
And what I try to do is when I hear something that I like really, really, really like and I like can't get it out of my head and I love playing it, I try and make a hook that is like that, but like different. I try and emulate it in a way and try and make it my own. Like there are some songs on our album. Like there's one song called The Factory that we're going to release, and it is basically inspired by Muse's Undisclosed Desires. Like if you listen to that song, there's like a really cool orchestral hook in the beginning with like a drum beat. And I was like, man, this is so cool because it is like orchestral. It's like an orchestral pits thing. And it's so catchy. And I said, I really want to do something like that. Like I want that type of feeling in one of our songs. So I had that in mind. I was thinking about it, and I found for myself that I don't write hooks well when I'm like sitting with my bass or on the computer. Like I need to write a hook, or like I want to do this now. I was exercising, and it came to my mind what this hook is. And so I got my phone out. I use this thing all the time. So I got my phone out, voice memo, and I just like sang it. I was like, here's the hook. I can't forget this. But yeah, if you listen to The Factory and then you listen to Undisclosed Desires, you'll definitely see like, yeah, there's definitely similarities here. Like anybody would notice it, but like it is different. But it is like inspired by that. It's like Jaws was inspired. Like you could make an argument that it was inspired by New World Symphony.
Oh, sure. And like, let's
Yeah.
just let's go down the list for John Williams. And,
Exactly.
and there's still wonderful pieces, right? But like, I was just rehearsing with the group, The Planets, yesterday. So it's like, okay, let's see. We Star Wars for sure. And then even Jupiter Holst, one of the kids in the group I was rehearsing, he said, like, real sort of like super music geek. He's like, this melody, the famous theme in the slow section of Jupiter. He's like, this is an exact ripoff, I think, from Brahms. And I'm like, and he played the Brahms melody. And I'm like, that's the melody, and you know, that's how it goes.
It's funny how
great artists steal, right? Good artists borrow, great artists steal.
Yeah, it's funny how that's been happening for years, and like we kind of hold these classical pieces, like classical, masterpieces, to this huge high standard. Like these things are amazing, but they did that all the time.
Yeah,
like they stole stuff. Like Mozart did it, we know that for sure. Mm-hmm. Obviously, Holst did it with Brahms. Mm-hmm. I'm sure Beethoven did. I'm sure all these guys like did that, to some degree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's okay because like you are creating something new that's just inspired by something that you really like. I mean, I think that's fine. I did have a problem with that in the beginning when I was writing stuff. I was like, man, I really just want to come up with something that's like original. That's just like Nick Villalobos. But like, I've heard stories like that of, classical composers doing that, and I think it helped, but yeah, I feel like it's totally fine. Like you are still creating something new, but it is inspired by something. And like, isn't that what makes a great piece? Like you were inspired by something to do this, whether it's a piece that's already written or like, nature. I feel like it's the same thing.
Well, I love how you're describing that you at your base or at the computer is not when hooks or ideas like that come to you.
Yeah.
It's like when you're and for me, I love running, and it's like I know ideas will come. I have my phone with me, and I get at a certain point I just sort of like turn off what I'm listening to, and like whatever I was thinking about kind of comes together. I mean, do you get a lot of ideas? Is exercise like a place for you where that kind of happens?
Yeah, for sure. Exercise. I like to run. I like to lift weights and play basketball and stuff like that. Also, when I'm in the car, just by myself, just kind of thinking, that it definitely happens there too. But I feel like I do better when I'm thinking about it and then I sing the melodies. Or like, not really. I'm not a great singer by any means, or a singer at it at all. But I like hum the melodies, sing the melodies. I feel like that's where it is for me. Sometimes I'll figure out something on the bass. Or like on the piano too. Love the piano. All the keys are there. It's in tune.
Right. Exactly. Some of that bass baggage that we have disappears when you go to something else, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Thinking about it in a different way for sure. But yeah, definitely. I definitely have to be like doing something. That's when like inspiration comes for me.
Okay.
It's never like I want to write something right now.
Right.
That rarely happens for me.
Yeah. Okay. You don't just sit down and the muse speaks. You're like, and go. Okay, yeah. I got just one more question. There's so many things we could talk about. I got one more question that I like to ask people. It's like the only thing I typically ask everybody, and it's interesting because you got started with kind of this path sophomore year, you said, so you were like 20, right? So maybe I'll go earlier. Like if you could give, like, let's say 17-year-old Nick some advice, 17 or 18-year-old, now where you're at, you're like this classical music rock star. Everybody would love to do that. Like, what would you tell young Nick?
I would tell young Nick, do what you want to do sooner. I would say that. Because I think at the beginning, and like it's kind of interesting because I didn't know that I wanted to do this, but I do now. Like I want to do this, and that's great. So it's not in that regard. But when we started doing this, when we decided like we're gonna be a group, I really wanted to do original music right away, but I was scared because I didn't know how to do it. And maybe in the whole realm of things. That's fine that happened because I learned how to do arranging for strings, especially for a cello, bass, and violin. I learned how to do that through covering people's songs. And now that's probably influenced the way I write for the group now. But I really wish we would have just done original music earlier, personally. I think we would have been in a different spot at that point, from right now. And who knows? But like, I think possibly our original music could be better by now. That probably much is true. But yeah, I would say 17-year-old Nick, do what you want to do sooner.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
How often, how many of us, just keep going through the path that people think we're supposed, that set out for us, right? Especially like anybody getting trained in classical music. It's like this centuries long tradition of, of course you go do this. And now you learn Beethoven 5 and 9 and Mozart 40 and these 12 solos and cool.
And that's kind of what I was talking about it earlier. The song, The Factory, it's like about that.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. That we're like, as classical musicians, we're like put on this like factory line, especially in like the classical music scene, like what you're talking about. Learn these excerpts, play them this way, and you will get a job. Yeah. And like, that's great. Like nothing against guys who do that or like people that want to do that. Yeah. I think it's great. And those people are like beast bass players. Mm-hmm. Like we all know them. Mm-hmm. Yes. they're all like so good and they play beautifully. But that wasn't for me. Yeah. That wasn't for me. Like I feel like I know what it takes to get into an orchestra. Whether or not if I did the work I would still get in is up to debate. Right. But I like don't want to do that.
Right.
And like I think I don't think it's anything. It makes me less of a musician because I don't want to do that or because I haven't done that.
Right.
But that is like what the factory is about. It's like, there definitely is like a line of work that you need to do to get into the place you want to be. And if it's principal of a big major orchestra, this is the path. Like that is the path. It's like a proven path.
I can't wait to check that out. That's great. And yeah, like how cool, like what you're doing. I'm just such a fan of like making stuff, creating something that wasn't out there, right? So that's like what you guys are doing and what a fun and varied and unpredictable in a great way kind of path, right? Like who knows what you're going to create a year from now, but it's really exciting. And it's so different, going back to that path thing, from like people who are on that path where it's like 10 years from now you're going to be playing Beethoven 5, 9, Brahms 2, blah 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 blah, which is great. I love that too. But it's very I remember when I was in college pulling out, Northwestern has archives of all the Chicago Symphony programs going back to like the 20s, right? So I opened up a book. It's like 1954, and I'm looking, and that could have been the program of that week, in like 2000. Yeah. It was the same. In fact, it might have even been a little more adventurous than the one in 2000. so
yeah, they're kind of, that's just what they do, and it's fine. Mm-hmm. Like I feel like with how orchestras are going, they need more support. They need, because I don't want that art form to die. Like that is what inspired me, was those pieces and like playing in an orchestra and feeling that awesome feeling that you have when you're in an orchestra and like everybody's doing this one musical idea like in such a great way. Like that is awesome. Yeah. That is so cool. But there is something so cool about nobody's done what you want to do. Nobody knows how to do it. So like figure it out. Yeah. It's like super exciting to me. And again, that's probably not for everybody, but it's definitely for me to be able to figure out what I'm going to do musically, business-wise, all that stuff. It's super fun, and you definitely learn a lot about yourself as a person, as a collaborator, and honestly, like as a musician, for sure. Like there's definitely things to playing pop music on a string instrument that I didn't learn in school, classically trained. It's different things that go into it.
I'm sure. Yeah.
And like we've given our music, or we've played our music with like super classical people that, they've never played anything like it. And sometimes they can't play it for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. Not that it's hard, but like they can't get the style of it, or like the exact syncopations and the feel. It's interesting. It's interesting to witness that type of stuff. But yeah, it's very exciting. It's very exciting to be able to figure it out. And I'm an open book. Like, if people want to do this and they want to figure out something like this, I will give all of my knowledge to those people, because I had to seek it out. I had to like ask tons and tons of people, how do you do this? How do you do this? How do you do this? And I still do that, because there's still a lot of things that I don't know when it comes to making a band, writing music, all these things. But yeah, I think we definitely need to help each other out a little bit more in figuring out these types of things.
Love that seeking out and not being afraid to ask, and like you were saying earlier with like contacting the guy at the Huffington Post, like not being afraid to be direct. And I think that we're so shy as just generalization, but like, and I don't know if it's the training or whatever, but I think we're kind of shy about promoting ourselves. Maybe everybody is, but I feel like even maybe more so classical musicians, maybe it's that kind of introverted thing that we're sitting in practice rooms by ourselves working on these excerpts fetishistically, to try to make them. And it's just like, that's something that people struggle with so much. But if you are direct and open and like, I'm not sure how to do this, I want to do this, I'd love it if you got the word out. It's just amazing. Like your path so far is just like so many great examples of what doing that can bring you.
Yeah, nobody's gonna like do anything for you, like in the real world, like for sure. Like nobody's gonna be like, I mean, sometimes that happens, like, hey, I really like your group, I wanna help you out. But I think more often than not, you have to ask for what you want, and you have to like go out and get it, and not by any means necessary, obviously, but obviously have morals and all that stuff. But yeah, like telling people what you want, and if they're interested, they'll work with you. And if they're not, well, then somebody else is, like, I would think. And I've always said to people, like, hey, if you don't know how to do something, there's somebody that does. And if they don't know somebody, they probably know somebody that does know how to do it. So like, just start talking about what you want to do. Just start talking about it with the people, with your friends, your family, and you will be shocked with probably how talented your group of friends is and their groups of friends are, because that's pretty much how we've done everything. Is we've told somebody this is what we want to do, we don't know how to do it, they've either known how to do it or they know somebody that knows how to do it, and then it gets done. It's pretty crazy. Like we recently put a bunch of our music on musicnotes.com. We got a contract with them, which was really cool. And this has been like years in the making because we wanted to publish our music, and then we couldn't because somebody said something about licensing, and then we learned about licensing, and then that took us down a hole, and then all these other things that happened. And then finally, a few months ago, Zach said, I'm just going to call Music Notes. It's called Music Notes. They actually knew who we were, and they were excited that we called. They're like, hey, we were going to call you in a few weeks. And we're like, yeah, whatever. Like, and again, like that was kind of like this whole thing of getting stuff on musicnotes.com was all of this. We tried to talk to everybody that we knew. We thought we were going in the right direction, but then finally we just contacted the source, and now we have our stuff on Music Notes. It's just funny how it all works.
Isn't it? Yeah, right. And these things that you could just sort of like be stuck in this loop, and then all of a sudden it says, I'm just going to do this, and there it is. Yeah.
It's crazy. But yeah, you have to exhaust all your efforts, and definitely have to get people on your side, because it's really hard to do everything by yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I want to congratulate you on what you've done and what the three of you are doing, and it's exciting to follow along with. And you've done so much, but you're still like a young group, right? I mean, it'll be really exciting to see what next year brings and the year after that. So, thanks for chatting. Nick, thank you so much. So great to catch up with you. So exciting what you're doing with the group. And folks, check them out at simply3music.com. And that's going to do it for another episode of Contrabass Conversations. I have such fun putting these episodes together, having the opportunity to have these conversations with people like Nick or all the hundreds of people I've chatted with. It's such a privilege, and I am so grateful to you for taking the time and listening to these. I know how valuable your time is, and I just want to thank you so much for following along. So many exciting guests in store. Don't even know where to start, so I will leave it there for this week. If you're new to the podcast, definitely check out the website, contrabassconversations.com. There's an index. If you go to contrabassconversations.com/index, find guests cross-referenced by topic, school they teach at, orchestra they play in, that sort of thing. That's a great place to start diving in. Also, check out our app. That's a great way to search through the archives too. contrabassconversations.com/app. We have an app for Android, for iOS. It has some extra features in there. You get a free copy of my book, Road Warrior Without an Expense Account. What's not to love? So thanks again for following along. I appreciate it. I know Nick appreciates it. Simply3music.com. Check out the band, and we will see you again soon for more life on the low end of the spectrum.